Hey everyone. Yeah, I would like to introduce Roland Sensei, and I also wanted him to perform. So I don't know. I'm curious how we can perform. So Roland Sensei was assigned at the Lethbridge Temple in Alberta this year, and he ね、I think some of you may know Grant Sensei. Grant Sensei is his younger brother. And sorry. Also, like we call the Roland Sensei is a doctor because he was the medical doctor for over 30 years. And he was born family temple. Then he helped the Lethbridge Temple quite for a long time as a minister's assistant. And he took the Yoshi license last year. So, and then he was assigned the Lethbridge Buddhist Temple. So yesterday we had Toronto Buddhist Church had a bazaar, and Ronald Sensei must be tired, so to help him. So he's a kind of a guest, but still, like he worked so hard with our temple members, selling the sushi and cooking the inari sushi and setting up the table and chairs and clean up all things. So I talked to Roland Sensei, what is the resident minister's job? And usually people think perform or provide the Buddha Dharma. But we talked, oh, resident Buddhist minister's job, the most top of the priority is cleaning up or setting up the tables and chairs and work together with temple members. That is the most important things for temple and for the minister. But before I told him that he already done, so I'm sure he will become a really great Kaikyoshi minister at the Lethbridge Temple because he can create really great teamwork with temple members. And I'm looking forward to hearing his Dharma message. Thank you, Roland Sensei, please. Right up, sure.
Morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Thank you very much for gathering and for allowing me to be part of your service today, Shotsuki service. Before I start my Dharma message, I wanted to give a few thanks. So thank you for allowing me to come. The second thing is thank to Ouchi Sensei. He's been spending the last 4 or 5 days with me, teaching me some tricks of the trade, which are very handy. He was also very instrumental in me going through Tokudo and Kyoshi process, because of course he's the expert on chanting. And he would actually lead our classes, not just the people in Canada, but all the students in the US as well, on how to chant properly and how to conduct our rituals. So it was really great that he was able to help us. And I think most of us passed only because of his efforts. So thank you, Ouchi Sensei. And I'm so sad to hear that he's going to be going back to Japan, although I think I understand the reasons why, but I know that Canadian Kyodon's really going to miss him. He has been a great influence here in Canada, so thank you. I also was really happy to be here during the bazaar, the Toronto Buddhist Temple Bazaar. So it was amazing all of the work that the people in the Sangha did. We just finished our big Chow-mein supper in Lethbridge, where we served 2,200 meals, takeout meals. So we've worked from Wednesday basically to last Sunday, and then I fly here, and then I got to help with the bazaar here. So that was kind of cool to see the process. It was just amazing to see how the Sanghas from both temples really gather together. It's really what I like to call Dharma energy, right? There's so much Dharma energy in the room when people are getting together and working like that. So it was a nice opportunity to actually see that and to participate in it. And I kept saying to Ouchi Sensei, oh, I'm happy to do the work, more because it really gives you a chance to visit with the Sangha members, right? You're stuffing inari together and you're talking with 6 or 7 people together, right? So it's the best way to really to get to know the Sangha is to work together with them. I also like the opportunity today to listen to Soraiju. It's not a chant we do very often at all. In fact, when I was going through Kyoshi, we learned about 3 of the sort of the shorter preliminary sutras that we chant. And Soraiju was one of them that we sort of touched on, but we were told, oh, it's too difficult for you guys to learn. It's too hard, so don't even bother. So it was nice to hear Ouchi Sensei do it properly. So thank you, Ouchi Sensei, for that too. So I'm going to go on with my Dharma message. If I could get you all to put your hands together, palms together in Gassho as I read a wasang. All sentient beings, as they hear the name, realize even one thought moment of shinjin and joy, which is directed to them from Amida's sincere mind, and aspiring to be born in that land, they then attain birth and dwell in the stage of non-retrogression. Namamida Butsu. Namamida Butsu. Namamida Butsu. Thank you. So this wasan is taken from the Kyogyo Shinsho, which is Shinran Shonin, our founder's great master work. And it's contained in the chapter on Shinjin. And it really does focus on the importance of Shinjin. So the importance of Shinjin to Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. What is Shinjin? The translation of Shinjin is an entrusting heart and mind, right? So for us to have trust in Abhida's primal vow or his compassion. And that was the innovation that Shinran Shonin, our founder, actually brought to Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. So many of the masters before him, like Honen, they really focus on reciting the Nembutsu. That Nembutsu and saying Namamida Butsu was the most important thing. But Shinran sort of twisted things or changed things. He made an innovation. And he said that the Nembutsu is a grateful response in hearing or accepting the compassion of Buddha. But it's Shinjin that is most important. That's the central idea in Buddhism. And that was an innovation that Shinran Shonin really brought to Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. But Shinjin is a difficult concept to understand, right? It's hard to entrust in Amida's compassion. What exactly does that mean? It's hard, and I've often heard it said that ministers often avoid that topic because it's too hard to explain, right? People keep asking questions and it's hard to clarify. So what I wanted to do was to tell you a story that sort of talks a little bit about Shinjin or the concept of Shinjin. This is a story that I read a few years ago, but it's about a man who gets lost in the desert. So he's going from town to town, and as he's walking across the desert, there's a windstorm, so a sandstorm. So he gets lost. So he's wandering around for 2 or 3 days, can't find his way. He's really worried. He has a flask of water, but after a couple of days, the water's starting to run out. And he's thinking, oh, my goodness, I'm going to die. I'm going to die of thirst, right? And just as he's thinking that, he sees in a distance a hut. It's a small hut, but first he thinks, oh, it's a mirage. It must be a hallucination, right? It's not real. But he walks closer and closer to that hut. And luckily, he finds that it's actually a hut. So he goes in to this hut and he's looking around for water, but much to his surprise, there's a water pump in the corner. And the water pump has a tube going down into the ground. So he thinks, oh, great, I'm going to get some water. So he pumps the pump, he pumps the pump, he pumps the pump. Nothing happens. There's no water that comes out. So he goes, oh my goodness, I'm now lost again. But just as he's giving up hope, he notices in the corner of the room that there's a bottle covered with a blanket, but the bottle has water in it. So he thinks, oh, great, I'm saved. I can drink this water. So he goes to grab the water. He's about to drink it. And then he notices a note and there's a map. So the note says, use this water to prime the pump. Please remember to fill the jug after you're finished. Right? And the map actually contains a listing of where this hut is and how to get to the closest town. So he thinks, oh, goodness, great, I'm saved. When he looks at the map, though, he realizes that the closest town is 4 days' walk away. Okay. So now he's got a dilemma. He's got this little jug of water, right? So does he drink that? Does he guzzle it down? Does he use up that water that he has? The problem with that, though, is that because it's 4 days walk away, that water is probably not enough to sustain him to get to the next town, right? Or does he listen to the note? Does he take this precious little bit of water that he has, pour it into the pump? And everybody knows about water pumps that you have to prime it often first. You have to pour some water in, I think, to get the suction going. So what does he do? What would you do if you were in that dilemma? Would you drink the water for the next, comfort for the next couple of days? Or would you use the water to prime the pump? What would you do? Drink? Ouchi Sensei said he'd drink it. Pump? Most people would choose the pump, right? Because the idea is that if you drink the water, you're only going to be alive for the next couple of days anyways. Immediate gratification, Ouchi Sensei. But if you use the water to prime the pump, maybe the pump will work, maybe it won't, but you really have nothing to lose, right? If you use the pump, the water to prime the pump, maybe there's a chance that you're going to be saved. Right? So he decides he's going to use the water to prime the pump. So he pours the water in, he pumps, nothing happens. He pumps, nothing happens. He keeps pumping, and sure enough, the water comes flowing out the well. So he can now fill his jug. He can fill the empty bottle. He finds a couple of other empty bottles that he can fill. So he can make his way back to the closest town, 4 days walk away, but he knows he's safe, right? So the idea of shinjin is like trusting the note, right? So the note is like Amida's primal vow or Amida's compassion, right? So the note, you have to trust in it, even though you don't know what's going to happen. And that's what shinjin is all about. What this story tells us is that relying on Amida's primal vow is very important. So the water represents the compassion, as I said, and the fact that when we give, we often receive more back than when we originally put in. When I look at Shinran Shonin's writing, if you look at the Tanninsho, he actually talks about this entrusting and how important it is. So I'm going to read that. It's from the Tanninsho, which is stories about Shinran's lessons or Dharma talks. So it says in the Tanninsho, as for myself, Shinran, I simply take to heart the words of my dear teacher Honen. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida. Entrust myself to the primal vow. Besides this, there is nothing else. I do not know whether the Nembutsu may be the cause of my birth in the Pure Land, or if it should be an act that condemns me to hell. But I have nothing to lose. I have no regrets. Even if I should have been deceived by my teacher and say the Nembutsu and fall into hell. The reason is that if I were capable of realizing Buddhahood by other religious practices and yet fell into hell for saying the Nembutsu, I might have dire regrets for having been deceived. But since I am absolutely incapable of any religious practice to obtain enlightenment, hell is my only home. So what Shinran Shonin is saying in this passage is that he's got nothing to lose. He has no ability on his own to become enlightened, to get to the Pure Land. Right? So if he relies on Honen or if he doesn't, his fate would be to go to hell anyways. And so for him, his only way to the Pure Land, the only way to end his life of suffering is to trust in Amida's compassion. And then the Nembutsu flows from us as a grateful response, as gratitude for that compassion that Amida endows on us. There's a slight difference, though, in the man story and what happens with Shinran Shonin and in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. So the man reads the note, he trusts the note, and he's reliant on the note. And so it's his own power that ends up in the end saving him by trusting. Whereas in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, we believe that the compassion and that entrusting is actually endowed to us from Amida Buddha, that we actually receive that compassion. So in the saying that I read, it says, all sentient beings, as they hear the name, realize even one thought moment of shinjin and joy, which is directed to them from Amida's sincere mind. So this compassion, this shinjin is actually directed to us from Amida. So even that is not our own power. It is actually the power of Amida Buddha. Right? So shinjin is directed to us from Amida, and Amida accepts us just the way we are, or sonomama. So if I can please ask you to join me in Gakkyo again. All sentient beings, as they hear the name, realize even one thought moment of shinjin and joy, which is directed to them from Amida's sincere mind, and aspiring to be born in that land, they then attain birth and dwell in the stage of non-retrogression. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. So a very short Dharma talk, but I hope that was okay. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your service again.